Welcome, everyone, to Season 2, Episode 1 of Chad and Brad Talk Sports. I'm your host, Chad. I want to start this pod off by saying thanks to everybody in Season 1, especially our UK listeners. That was a really cool one to get. We heard your feedback, and we're stoked to announce that we've added a new member to our team, my brother, Tanner. He's our sound engineer, and he's the reason you can see Brad's ugly face right now. And also, as you can see, we've got everything branded here as well, so make sure to check us out on YouTube. Our YouTube is Chad Brad Sports. And let's send it over to the other Brad of this one. How's it going, dude?
Pretty good, man. I like how we called out the UK people. Do UK people even care about American football?
I don't
The
know, but
whole
we
thing.
gotta listen.
It's Chad and Brad Talk Sports. It just flows really nice, but really it's Chad and Brad Talk Football and Draft. And sometimes we talk a little hockey too. Maybe they cared about the hockey portion.
Yeah, there you go. And we talked some soccer too. I did a solo episode about soccer.
You for sure did soccer, yeah. I think I know 3 players in all soccer.
I'll keep the soccer talk up to me. Another thing we wanted to announce is that we will be having more guests on, specifically some soccer guests and also some other football guests. And Tanner will probably pop in for a couple segments as well, just because, believe it or not, he knows enough about Cowboy football, just like Brad and I do. But today, the only segment we're going to be talking about is the NFL playoffs. And we are going to be discussing Brad and I's picks of all of the rounds. And then we're going to be essentially previewing the divisional round that's coming up. And then next week, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce video to this podcast. So last year, you heard us through your headphones and you weren't able to see us. This year, we're going to be breaking down video on the podcast as you can see it on YouTube. But I think it's time to get into this thing. You ready, Brad, for season 2?
Absolutely.
Here we go. Well, as you can see on this wonderful screen of yours, we have the matchup right here, courtesy of Pro Football. What is that? Network. Pro Football Network. So appreciate the picture there. We are not affiliated with Pro Football Network, but love what they do. Check them out if you haven't yet. So first, we're going to be starting off with the AFC matchups. And the AFC matchups, we had a doozy with the Chargers and the Jaguars. And if you didn't watch the Chargers and the Jaguars game, it was one of the most boring games on the planet in the first half. And then in the second half, it got really, really Trevor Lawrence is the Jaguars quarterback, for those who don't know. And my man threw 4 interceptions in one half. Yes, I've been on the pod multiple times talking about how he is the next GOAT, how he has every intangible in the world. And right now, at that first half, it didn't look well. And then in the second half, he threw 4 touchdowns and beat Justin Herbert.
It was so boom. It was crazy.
Yeah.
First half, all you're saying is, get rid of him.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, you can't throw 4 picks, go down. I forget how far they were down.
Yeah.
But everyone turned the TV off.
Everybody did.
I personally turned the TV off. I was like, I'm not watching this. I'll go watch something else. I'll go do anything else. And then I turned it back on with 3 minutes to go when they were like, oh, wait, this game's close. I said, what game? Like the Jaguars game? No shot. Sure enough, Trevor Lawrence comes back like he didn't just throw 4 picks. Goes for 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. No lie, bro. And the weird thing too with Trevor Lawrence is like he has every single box you can check, right? He has every box you can check. But the one box that he doesn't have, which we talk about a lot on this podcast, which clearly he doesn't have, is the timing is a little bit off. You notice that? In college, every single route he threw, crisp, on the money, hardly any interception. And then he goes to the NFL and it's a completely different game. You know what I mean? Completely different.
It's the speed of the game.
True. That's the box. Speed of the game. Good. Yeah. Good correction there. Speed of the game for sure. Well, the Jags ended up winning and they moved on, which we'll talk about the next. The other game in the wild card was the Bengals and the Ravens. If you haven't watched Joe Burrow play, that was a hell of a game. Bengals beat them. It was a close game, but the Bengals pretty much ran over them. Then we'll just skip ahead to the Bills and the Dolphins. The Bills and the Dolphins. Bills won. It was a good game. It was close, but the Bills kind of steamrolled them. I see Brad wants to jump in.
I'm just saying the Bills were exposed in that game. Who was the quarterback for Miami? Skylar Thompson rookie out of Kansas State. Until
Yeah.
Tua goes down, Bridgewater's down. They're on to Skylar Thompson playing who is supposed to be the best team in the AFC. They almost lose to
Yeah.
the Dolphins in this nobody.
Yeah.
They got exposed.
I mean, yeah, I think that they showed that they weren't as good as everybody thought they were. Also, let me take a step back too and mention that Brad and I are going to be picking, and I know this episode's coming out a couple weeks late, and we already have the results, but we're promised we're going to be true to our picks. I 100% picked the Chargers to beat the Jaguars. I was wrong on that one. I picked the Bengals game right, and I picked the Bills game right. Brad, did you have the Chargers over the Jags?
Yes, I did have the Chargers over the Jags.
Did you have the Bengals over the Ravens too?
Yes.
And the Bills over the Dolphins?
Yes. Bengals, for just people that don't know, Bengals are my AFC favorite for the Super Bowl. So each week you're going to hear about how I think they will win the game that they have coming up.
I mean, how do you not with those fucking jerseys, man?
Joe Shiesty. I mean, that guy. I'd follow
Those jerseys. Those jerseys are clean, bro. Then we had the Chiefs play the Jags, and the Chiefs won. Scary moment in that game. If you didn't see it, Patrick Mahomes had a high ankle sprain. That's another one that you question going into this week. That's the biggest question mark I have going into this week, against the matchup that we'll talk about here in a sec. But the Chiefs won, and they relied on Travis Kelce. They relied on Patrick Mahomes. I want to say Kelce had like 14 targets that game. I can go back and fact check, but I want to say Kelce had about like 14 targets that game. Mahomes is just diming him up every single time with that ankle too, which is weird. Is he going to be good enough to actually take on the Bengals in the next round? Because we go to the next game with the Bengals and the Bills, and the Bengals exposed the Bills, like Brad said. And I know we skipped over the Jags. Brad, I'll let you go. I'm getting a little excited. Who did you have picked on the Jags against the Chiefs? I'm assuming the Chiefs. I did.
Yeah, Chiefs. It was a scary moment when Mahomes looked like an ankle, maybe a minor ankle sprain.
High ankle sprain.
High ankle sprain. It looked scary. I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, they might not get past the Jags if he's not in.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see if he's not 100%. I don't see how they can keep up with the Bengals offense.
No, I don't think so. So with the Bengals and the Bills game, I mean, that was in I guess the way I would describe that game, it was in the snow too. Yeah, that's another. Joe Burrow came out in just 2 drives in a row was very close to perfect. The first drive, I think he might have been perfect. And for you to do that in Buffalo, in the snow, when you're playing a defense like Buffalo's defense, that's a tall task to do. And what did he do? He leaned on Jamar Chase. And that's what you do in the playoffs. You lean on your guy, and Jamar delivered every single time. And the Bills went home. The Bills lost that game to the Bengals, which, once again, I had that one wrong. I picked the Bills over the Bengals. I know Brad had Bengals over the Bills. But I thought Josh Allen was going to go out there and do it at home. Thought he was going to rely on Diggs. After the game, Diggs left and was not happy. He literally, I want to say I read that he like ran out of the locker room, came back, and then left again. So that's kind of scary. Is he going to go anywhere? I don't think so. You know, Brad and myself grew up with a great guy called Dez Bryant catching the ball, and I think he ran out of a lot of games too, but he was back the next week and throwing up the X.
I mean, at the end of the day, a 68 passer rating is not going to win you a playoff game 9 out of 10 times. Josh Allen was missing throws he should have been making. You can blame the snow. You can do that. But Joe Burrow had 242 and 2 touchdowns and over 100 rating. Didn't seem to affect him, and that was the Bills stadium. Like, the Bills should be the one prepared. That's their stadium. I mean, since the playoffs started, a little before the playoffs, the Bills defense has fallen off, really. Going to allow Joe Mixon. He ran 105 on them. Bengals don't have that good of an offensive line, you know. That's been the story since Joe Burrow started. Like, they're still really working on that. They only managed 1 sack. They really didn't pressure Burrow much. He's just cool, calm, and collected in a snowy environment. doing whatever he wanted.
Yeah, and he was diming him up too. That was a fun game to watch. He didn't miss throws, and when you watch that, you just watch at LSU. I mean, I watched Joe Burrow torch everybody he played at LSU. I got to see that one, and then he leans on the guy he did it in college with, and it's incredible that they keep coming now. And you see the trend, right? You see the trend. It's never going to stop. We'll talk next episode about Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. That's a little nugget there that we'll talk about at the end. But they're going to start bringing these guys. Alabama's going to start bringing their guy. Ohio State's going to bring their guy.
Say right now, Joe Burrow doesn't fold under pressure. When he's pressured, and I don't mean like pressure like defensive line pressure. I mean like pressure the moment, pressure the game.
Yeah.
He's there. I watched when he was in college. I'm a UT fan, big UT guy for football, college football. When I was watching them play, the game deciding pass was a 3rd and 18, and he completes it. Under pressure and everything. We blitzed everything. The guy he's so cool headed back there. Like he's a 10-year pro. Like he's Tom Brady out here.
Yeah.
He just doesn't get to him.
Yeah. It's absolutely ridiculous. I completely agree. The dude's everything you want in a quarterback. I mean, he's been in the league, I think 3 years, and two of them he's gone to the he's about to go to the Super Bowl. Clearly I gave my prediction on that one. I got the Bengals taking the Chiefs. You don't ever want to pick against Mahomes. But the fact that I picked against Burrow last year, I'm not going to do it again. And yeah, and I mean, the another reason I'm going so hard on the Bengals and I'm leaning so hard on them in this one because Mahomes with that ankle. You know what I mean?
100%. I don't.
And if you have Mahomes, and I get Mahomes' game isn't necessarily running, but his game is making magic in the pocket.
And they need to pressure him out of that pocket. I don't think he can make the magic he does on that ankle right now out of the pocket.
Yeah, but one key player we're missing that's potentially going to win Defensive Player of the Year, he's one of the 3 up for it right now, is Chris Jones, the defensive tackle for the Chiefs. And not to mention you talking about them having a so-so offensive line, which it has been. They've played really well some games, and other games they haven't, and they lost Lyle. So, that line's already hurt a little bit.
My last little chime in on the Bengals Chiefs game coming up. The Bengals are actually favorited. It's not a lot,
Really?
but they are favorited.
And you're a betting man. Are you gonna bet that game or no?
Oh, I'm throwing money on Joe Shiesty. Come on.
All right. We'll pump it over to the NFC side now. We are at the wild card round, starting with the 49ers and the Seahawks game that took place a couple weeks ago. I had the 49ers picked in that game. Not much to talk about that game. They went out there, leaned on Brock Purdy and all their guys. Brad's going to jump in.
I will say on that game, that one strip sack fumble by Charles Omenihu, UT.
That was solid.
That changed the game. They were going down to score. Seahawks were going down to score and take the lead with that score. And after that sack fumble, it deflated them.
It's that defense. They always lean on that defense the whole year. 49ers.
You saw it go out of Geno. And props to Geno Smith, man. Like
for real.
I have family in Seattle. I have family that are Seahawks fans, and so the Russell Wilson trade, they're all mad. Let's ride Bronco Nation.
Yeah,
3 less touchdowns than he has bathrooms in his house, and Geno took the Seahawks to the playoffs. They got a bunch of first rounds out of it. I would say they're pretty happy at this point, even with the loss.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it was a winning season in their books. They made the playoffs. Like that alone is a winning season. At the beginning of the year, you didn't know if Geno Smith was going to be the starter at the end of the year. And not only was he a starter at the end of the year, he was a top 10 player. And if anybody else wins comeback player of the year or not comeback player of the year, sorry, most improved player, I mean, that's his award. Like he can just grab it. That dude, he played at a caliber. I mean, I had him starting in fantasy for like 4 weeks.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, we're not talking MVP level here for
people
that might think we're trying to say that, but
no.
For a guy that, I mean, he's been in the league, I don't know exactly, 7-8 years easily.
Long time.
Been around on different teams, and I mean, he came out and he took the Seahawks to the playoffs when no one thought that was going to even be a possibility with losing Russell Wilson. So,
yeah, I mean, you're right. And then we jump to the Giants and Vikings game. That one was honestly, I had the Vikings picked. I got that wrong too. the Giants beat them. The Vikings played like they did against the Cowboys in the middle of the season. Honestly, the Vikings are just like the Cowboys. Those teams are literally the exact same. They have one team that shows up on the week, and the other week they just completely disappear, and they look like they're playing Pee Wee football. Yes, we are Cowboys fans on this pod, but clearly we're still hurting after this loss that we just had that we're going to get to in a second. But I mean, the Vikings have the best wide receiver in the league. If you're starting a team tomorrow, you're picking Justin Jefferson number 1, in my opinion. And they gave him the ball. They just got beat because they didn't play well at the end of the game, and they didn't shut it out like they should have. And the fact that the Giants were even there was pretty crazy to me. I'm obviously not the biggest Giants fan because, they've been in the Cowboys division for so long, but I recognize a good football team. I didn't think Daniel Jones was going to get it done, and I ate my words at the end of the season because he did. He ran really well on him, and that's what they leaned on. Brad, do you got anything on the Giants and Vikings game?
I do. I will say I picked the Giants to win that game, actually. I just had a feeling about them. Something about the Giants in that wild card spot. They've won 2 Super Bowls off of that. I see the Giants in that wild card spot, and I'm like, oh no. It's about to happen again. Like they're about to go team Tom Brady for the 3rd time, right?
Yeah.
I didn't pick the Giants to win. I was thinking Kirk Cousins was going to have, the Kirk primetime moment, where Kirk comes out and stinks it up and they lose. That was not the case. Kirk played an amazing game. I mean, I think he only missed 8 passes in that entire game, a couple touchdowns.
Yeah.
But really, they just couldn't get their running game going. They couldn't get Dalvin running. Credit to the Giants. I mean, they have an incredible defensive line. Kayvon Thibodeau has come on as the season has gone. Dexter Lawrence is the Pro Bowl, all-pro defensive tackle, in my opinion. He's incredible. You get beat sometimes, even when you play well.
It's tough, different opinions on different games, right? Like I look at the Viking, or different opinion on the same game. I look at the Vikings and I just, that team is capable of so much. That defense is so good, that offense is so good, but they just click or they don't. And I get they clicked a little bit, but I don't know, it sounds weird. Cowboys scoring 24 points and winning, like, I don't know. I would picture the Cowboys to score like, maybe 14, or they'd go off like Dak usually. You know what I mean? Like,
I will say one of the most solid pickups at the trade deadline of this year, though, was Vikings grabbing T.J. Hawkinson. He was about half of the yards for Kirk Cousins. He's his safety net.
Yeah,
I actually got
T.J. Hawkinson.
So I get my stats. We both get our stats from PFF. They're the ones that do all the hard work for us. Just so everyone knows out here, I'm not just like memorizing this while watching a game. But he was 11 targets, 10 receptions, 129 yards.
That's pretty.
12.9 yards of reception. Every catch averaged a little over a first down. That's a big pickup.
Yeah.
Can't add on to that. I don't know what the Vikings' problem is. They need some defensive help. They definitely need some defensive help. They fired the defensive coordinator. So
they need some secondary help.
They'll be on the hunt for a new one. Offense is solid. I mean, they have all the pieces. You were saying best receiver in the league. I'd agree with that. I think Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the league right now.
What do you put Dalvin?
He's a top 5 back
when he's healthy.
Yeah, when he's healthy, he's a top 5 back. It's hard to rate the backs. Like they're always injured. Derrick Henry's kind of the same way. Like they're always injured. Saquon, same way. Also Saquon. Curious to see what team he's on. We'll talk about that when we get to free agency. But T.J. Hawkinson, man, just to add that tight end to it, it was a hell of a pickup.
Absolutely. And then we jumped to the Cowboys and Bucks game. That one was pretty easy. The Cowboys just ran over the Bucks. That game was close after the first 2 drives, and it wasn't. We won't really go into that game a bunch because we're going to talk about the Cowboys pretty heavy this next round. Tom Brady, who knows where he goes? Retirement. Nobody said anything yet about retirement. We'll see what happens, right? There's a core group of guys there with Mike Evans, Godwin. You got Leonard Fournette. You've got a really good group, like offense. You got a solid offensive line too, even though it was dwindled a little bit after last year. So whether Tom's there or not, are they going to be a playoff team? I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team next year, but that division's just not that. So realistically, that division like C's last year, pretty much. I think the Bucks weren't even positive, and they made the playoffs. I want to say they were 8. And Carolina almost got in over. So we'll see where the Bucks go. In my opinion, that whole division kind of sits around 9 and 8. But we'll see there. I know Brad had the Cowboys picked. We'll still go NFC here.
Jump to the next round real quick. I do want to talk a little about the Buccaneers.
Okay.
That game. So I did have the Cowboys picked. Buccaneers in any regular season are not in the playoffs. I mean, the fact that they were all fighting for a playoff spot at 8 and 9 is crazy. That's the winner of the division. That's crazy. I will say multiple things about this game. Dalton Schultz has showed up all season long. He showed up in that game big time. He had 2 touchdowns. He personally won me $500 on one of those touchdowns. Love that guy. He got himself paid. That's what he did. Whether it's by the Cowboys or whether it's by somebody else, he's got himself paid this year and so far in these playoffs. The only thing I'm going to say about this game is the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde of Dak Prescott.
Yep.
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Completely agree. And like we said, we'll jump into them more because we're gonna take a while on that game with the Niners. But the Giants and the Eagles played, and the Eagles just crushed. That game wasn't close at all. Really didn't watch a ton of that game because, to be honest, I knew how the game was going to go from the start. I knew that the Eagles were going to win by a ton, and they did. Anything do you have to say about the Eagles and Giants game, Brian?
I picked the Giants to win it. Didn't bet it. Didn't place money on it.
That's good.
But I did pick them. I don't know. I thought maybe they'd come out, do something. But you're right. They just got straight steamrolled by the Eagles, and it was
in every way. Like
they were running all over them. Yeah. 2 backs. I don't know if both backs hit 100 yards. One did. One was really close. I know they had 3 rushing touchdowns on them. It was a running attack. I mean, the Giants got exposed in the running game. Jalen really didn't do anything in the passing game. I remember he had 2 touchdowns, like 150 yards. He didn't do anything in the passing game. They just got exposed by the Eagles' backs and
defense.
And defense. I mean, the defense shut them down.
Yeah, that defense definitely came to play. Then where does the Giants go? Sure, where do they go? Daniel Jones, is he coming back? I don't know. Is Saquon coming back? I don't know. Saquon declined the contract recently.
$12 million a year. How are you even asking for? He wants 16. He wants Christian McCaffrey money. He said it in the conference.
What's your opinion on that?
Well, personally, I wouldn't have paid Christian McCaffrey the money he got, but that's one thing. Now, Saquon hasn't played one season full. How are you giving him that much money?
Aside from this year and one previous, but that's it.
He'll actually probably get your comeback player of the year.
That's true.
Gino earlier, it'll probably be Saquon.
Oh yeah, no.
I think he'll be comeback player of the year. I think that Gino is the more surprising player of the year. I don't know where he ends up.
I don't know either. That I don't know if teams are paying that. I don't know if teams are paying that. I'm not sure.
With the Eagles.
I mean, I love Saquon. Saquon has every box from college. He's one of my favorite running backs to watch in college at Penn State. He Barry Sanders-esque with power ability, but he really can't stay healthy. Personally, me as a Cowboys fan, I would like to see the Giants sign Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones, to me, isn't that great of a quarterback. I think he's a starter on a lower tier team in this league. I don't think he's a starter on a higher tier team. I think he could even be a backup on some teams. I could see him being a backup in a couple years, if not pretty soon.
He had a good year. Dayball, that head coach that's a good head coach. I mean,
That's a great head coach.
Taken straight from out. He was offensive coordinator for Bama. I mean, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he
So
does.
give him. He's not going to quit on Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones improved drastically this year under him. I think he's going to give Daniel Jones a little bit of time working with him. They'll get some things figured out.
How many years do you think they give him a contract?
I'd say a couple of years for sure. I mean, you were in the playoffs this
2.
year. What quarterback are you picking next year without trading up that you're that excited about?
I mean,
it's
he's
hard to pick a quarterback unless you're. To me, if you're in the last half of, it's hard to get a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like,
you're not in the top 5.
that's 2-15. Then you go
Yeah.
get your quarterback because you know where the problem is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Daniel Jones has been the problem this year.
Not necessarily. I mean, some games he has.
They have a lot to work out. Look at the receivers. Who
They're
is he even throwing to in this game? Let me pull this up. Let me just go across these receiving guys, okay? We had Richie James.
Don't forget Hodgins.
Anyone?
Don't
Cool.
forget Hodgins.
Okay, we got Isaiah Hodgins. Yeah, he got cut from Buffalo. Okay, cool.
But-
We got Marcus Johnson. No one's cheering? Okay. Daniel Bellinger. What a guy. Who is he throwing to? Galladay's on the bench, and he's the highest paid guy because he sucks.
I mean, Galladay was making 70 sheets. And he
You
got
ever want to see someone finesse somebody so bad for money? Look at Kenny Galladay in that contract. That is the greatest finesse job I've ever witnessed.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, the Eagles, won, and they're at the NFC Championship game. We'll talk about that game here in a sec. Then we went to the Cowboys and the 49ers game. Pretty much the same exact way to end the game as it happened last year. Chug that beer, Brad. We had not a good game, to say the least. I think it was completely on Dak Prescott because he just didn't show up when he needed to. I think our defense played well. I think that the Cowboys defense played extremely well. I think that you couldn't ask the Cowboys defense to do more, and you could have asked the Cowboys offense to do literally everything more. Specifically, the run game. I know Tony Pollard broke his leg, and specifically the pass game with Dak Prescott. Now, I know CD had over 100 yards. I know Dalton Schultz also got his. But other than those two, you can't say that the other receivers played that well, but you can't even call it out the receivers because Dak couldn't hit anything. And that's what Brad was alluding to earlier with the Dr. Jekyll and Hyde with Dak, because that's what he is. He shows up one week and then the next week it's like he plays peewee football, and you're making $40 million a year, and that's got to stop. Now, Dak's only got a couple years left on his contract. We'll see what happens after those 2 years. It's hard to argue that the offense can get better, aside from adding maybe, a running back in the draft. Mel Kiper's most recent mock draft today had UT's running back going to, the Cowboys. If we cut Tony Pollard, old Bijan Robinson, we get, Zeke's got to take a massive pay cut to do that. Now, I think that's going to happen? It's a possibility, but I don't know, as a Cowboys fan, if you can really let Tony Pollard walk after what he did this year, and after watching how bad the rushing game was when he went out in this game against the 49ers. Last thing I'll say, and jump it over to Brad, and we'll keep going back and forth on this for a little while, is might be the worst play the end of the game that the Cowboys ran with Zeke running center. Zeke couldn't do anything about it. I understand that Mike McCarthy said that, it was a play they ran. I don't really care. Didn't think you could get worse than last year's play, and they got way worse. And Ezekiel Elliott's not a center, and I get you're trying to get it to Kevontae Turpin, your speedster and your talented guy, but there's no blockers in front of him, guys. It's not rocket science. You have to get him the ball, maybe a screen, and then get blockers in front of him and go. But a slant route right up the middle of the field when San Francisco is playing almost prevent-style defense isn't going to get you there. And Mike McCarthy, it shows his inconsistencies with coaching in late game situation shows. And I was talking to Brad earlier this week, and I'll push it over to him. I said McCarthy already has a Super Bowl, and Brad brought up the point. Does he? Clearly Aaron Rodgers won that. It's come out, and Aaron Rodgers said it, and it's been taped that Aaron Rodgers was calling most of those plays. And anybody that watched that game, Aaron Rodgers won that game. I don't know. This inconsistencies. There's a lot of ways to go for Dallas. Brad, what are your thoughts?
All right. I'll just start with the dumbest play in NFL history first. So they're definitely setting up for a lateral type of movement, right?
Of course.
Get the ball in Turpin's hands. He's your fastest guy. I mean, if someone sneezes, he's going to trip. You see that on every kick return and punt return he's had all season. Great returner, don't get me wrong. He's going to give you 40 yards every time, but he's going to trip. He could have had a touchdown in that game. He had it. All he had to do was cut in. And he didn't. Kicker takes him right around the 50. I don't understand having Zeke snap the ball. Because Zeke's going to have to block. Why wouldn't you just have your center in there? What was the point in Zeke snapping the ball? Unless Jerry was just like, yeah, get rid of him. Put him out there. Let's see if the nose tackle will kill him for us. What was the point in Zeke snapping the ball to then try to block a nose tackle? That made no sense. I can't even blame Dak for that throw. I'm about to blame him for a lot of shit, but I can't really blame him for that throw. Because the second he had the ball, there's a 300-pound guy in his face.
Yeah.
He took the throw immediately. Worst play call I've ever seen. It goes along with that. I think Kellen Moore needs to go. I think he needs to go. I think he is drastically overrated as an offensive coordinator and a play caller, and I think the talent that Dallas has had on offense in the past has elevated people to thinking that he is the mastermind of all this, and I think they just make it work.
So you think most of the offensive struggles is on Kellen Moore, not on Dak? Or do you think it's a mix of both?
Both.
Yeah.
I don't like Kellen Moore's play calling. There's some stupid play calling I see him do, and I'm like, well, doesn't even matter who you got in any situation right here because that was just a dumb call. What is that? And I don't know if it's Kellen Moore or Dak that decides every pass needs to be 3 to 4 yards when you need 12. I mean, run some intermediate routes.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb all year from the slot position has sat there and beat people for 15, 20-yard routes all year long.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's Fred Warner. I don't care if it's a safety. I don't care who it is. You're putting your best guy on whoever they're putting up against him. Even if it's their best guy, I'm taking it. I'm trying it. At the end of the day, Brock Purdy is their quarterback. Mr. Irrelevant. He's a rookie. The last pick in the draft. This is a guy that gets signed. He's picked. Everyone's like, oh my God, what a good story. And then week 3 of training camp, he's cut and never in the NFL again.
Typically that's what happens.
That's what Mr. Irrelevant is. That's what most 7th rounder is, honestly. You're on a practice squad or somewhere, you're not on a squad somewhere, and you're in the CFL. Why does he have a higher rating than you in this game when you are paid $40 million a year? Why is his average yards per attempt 7.4 and yours 5.6? He has more yards. He has better completion rating. Our defense showed up. They held Brock Purdy to 214 yards. Whatever. They held McCaffrey to 35 yards. Deebo Samuel had 11 yards. This is all rushing. They didn't have 100 yards rushing, and they're a rushing attack.
Yeah.
The defense held them.
Yeah.
But you just saw time and time again, just mistakes. Dak throwing interceptions when he didn't need to be throwing the ball to those people. The one interception was the Fred Warner one on a double-covered CeeDee Lamb. And T.Y. is on the sidelines wide open looking at him with his hands up.
He had multiple throws. He couldn't see. It was almost like he couldn't see the field. And
it's almost look.
He just shut his eyes and threw.
I don't know if I've ever watched Dak Prescott go through all his progressions.
I mean, when he's ripping a 400-yard game, he is, but
he's really not. If you just look at the ball, if he's throwing left, he's left. If he's throwing right, he's right. I never see like you see like the greats, Tom Brady and all of them, and they'll go left to center to right, back to center. They're all over the place. They're scanning. They're always looking. I don't see that from Dak.
I mean, it's.
And you're paid like the greats. In fact, you're paid more than they made.
I mean, yeah, the cap, back then alone was
Rodgers
just.
makes more.
I mean, the way I look at it with Dak is maybe maybe he doesn't get you past the divisional. Maybe that's just where his ceiling is, because whenever you go to the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, like if you think about it, there's not many teams left. There's not many teams left. You're in the top tier of those teams. You're not going to play a bad team. Wild card weekend, yes, you can catch a not the best team. No offense to Tampa, we caught Tampa this year in the wild card round. I was pretty stoked about that one. I really wasn't worried about that game at all. I knew that team wasn't. And then we show up against the Cowboys show up against a team that's really, really good defensively. And you knew what the Niners were going to do going into that game. At least if I'm the defensive coordinator of the 49ers, I'm saying I am taking Tony Pollard out of the game. I don't think Zeke's going to do a whole ton unless they're goal line. I'm making Dak throw the ball to beat us, because that is exactly what they did last year. And that's how they beat us again. Now, enough of, that game specifically. Now, more into what the Cowboys actually could do, offseason wise. There's so many different avenues. And I understand you've got Cowboy fans saying Dak needs to go. I get that. But realistically, there's nobody you're going to replace him that's going to be better if you let him go. If you make it happen, cool. Let me know. But I realistically, I don't think that's going to happen. Ezekiel Elliott came out either the day of or the next day and said he'd take a pay cut. Sign me up, Zeke. Stay a Cowboy. I love you blocking the ball. I love you on short yardage downs. And in the screen game, you're not bad when you're fresh. And personally, Tony Pollard needs that help on the blocking side too. When you got Zeke and Tony Pollard in the backfield, you got Zeke as a fullback and you got Tony Pollard as a halfback. That's a nasty formation. That's nasty. And then they even have CD that comes back there as well too, some for like a 3-back set. Good luck with those. Now, leads into my other point. Tony Pollard, his contract's up. Is he coming back? Dalton Schultz was franchise tagged last year.
Bring both of them back.
You have to. Yeah, you have to. But who knows what's going to happen? Dan Quinn. Is Dan Quinn coming back?
And I want everyone to know this. Me and Chatter Cowboys fans, yes, we are not your normal, it's our year. Every year's our year, blah, blah, blah. We are very realistic Cowboys fans. Like, very realistic. We lose Dan Quinn, who's our defensive coordinator for people that don't know. If we lose him, we will not be in the playoffs next year.
That's a bold statement.
We will not make the playoffs. Because that would mean that our head coach is still Mike McCarthy. And nothing has changed. We will not make the playoffs. The Eagles, they're a better team right now. They're not. It doesn't look like they're slowing down.
They have the 10th draft pick.
They got 2 first rounds, like incredible draft picks. The Giants, they're an improving team. They were supposed to be bottom barrel this year. They were projected to be next.
Yep.
I don't know, unless it's another case where all 3 NFC East teams makes it to the to the playoffs. I'd expect the Panthers, Saints, all those teams to get better, but I'll at least say if he's gone, we have no shot at winning our division if Dan Quinn is not a Dallas Cowboy next year.
So do you think that Dan Quinn then jumps up to the head coaching job? Or do you think Dan Quinn stays again as a DC, knowing that if they don't do anything next year, McCarthy's for sure gone?
I don't know. I can't see him. Well, that's the thing. If he's there, like, what is anything? Are they going to get to the exact same round they always get?
That's exactly what I mean. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. The divisional round is that's the ceiling.
He's had so many head coaching interviews. Last year he turned down. That was a miracle enough.
Yeah.
Doing it again this year. He's got all these interviews. I can't see him turning down another head coaching spot.
Yeah.
To go to the divisional round and lose. I just can't see it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue. You know what I mean? It's hard to argue. Great point about the Eagles getting better, the Jets getting better. All they're doing is drafting better. Better hope Washington doesn't start drafting well, and then or get a quarterback, which they're potentially we'll talk about in later episodes. But that division's went from really bad to really good a snap, and Dallas arguably, depending on the re-signings that they do, could stay the same because we're not going to be able to spend a ton of free agent money this year. We never do. That's not what we do now. We used to, but we never spend high free agent money because we sign our players and we build through the draft. And when the Cowboys build through the draft, you got you guys like Dalton Schultz, you get guys like Tony Pollard, and eventually you got to pay them. Now, hopefully Tony Pollard, if I don't know if we're going to pay him yet, I haven't decided. I don't think we will. I think we'll probably franchise tag him and then pay Dalton Schultz. I was talking to Brad earlier this week. I think that's what we both kind of agreed on. Dalton Schultz, it's hard to say you can't pay him just because of his production and how much Dak leaned on him. And if you take him away, how much Dak's safety blanket goes away. You can only throw CD the ball. So, you know what I mean? CD's clearly the offense. Tony Pollard this year was clearly the offense. I think you lean on Tony Pollard next year. I think you lean on CD. I think you lean on Schultz. You make some drastic changes, in my opinion, on the coaching side. And then you really, really know whether it is Dak Prescott or it is the coaching staff. Personally, I think Kellen Moore should go. I get he's had 2 12-win seasons back to back. I understand he's at the top tier of the offense usually, but when it comes time that matters, he completely disappears. And if you watch every single Cowboy game, which you probably don't, but Brad and I do, there's times in those games where you are watching him as a fan get out coached. And the dude's only been in the league for, 4 years, hasn't been in the league long at all. 5 years, something like that with Dak. He came in pretty much right with Dak because he was Dak's backup at one point. And then became his coach. So we'll see what happens with the Cowboys next season. We'll move, right along to the actual matchup at hand with the Philadelphia Eagles and the 49ers because we spent enough time on the Cowboys. Once again, we are a sports podcast that talks about NFL prospects, and it's draft time, folks. So we're going to have a lot more talking about these teams. The Eagles and the 49ers. Brad and I are different on this one. I think the Eagles are going to take them. I think that last week's, to take Brad's wording, they exposed the 49ers. I think the Cowboys, even though they didn't win, they exposed them. I think the Seahawks did as well. I know I said that the 49ers earlier in the episode steamrolled them. They did toward the end of the game, but Brad's right. It was close. It was a close game. And the 49ers, to me, are a good team. Brock Purdy's I did not see this coming. But I feel like the 49ers are just stick a quarterback in because that team's so good all around, and you're going to have success. I think the success stops this week with the Philadelphia Eagles because I think that the Eagles are playing at a level right now that nobody's playing at in the NFC other than potentially the 49ers. And the thing with the 49ers is that defense. Is that if that defense shows up against Philly and shuts Philly down, then I don't know. Because, I think the offense can go ahead and take Philly on that end. But my opinion, I think the Eagles are going to win this. I think it's going to be close. And I think you see the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl. Brad, tell me about why the 49ers beat the Eagles this
week. Yeah, I do have the 49ers. First off, Brock Purdy magic, dude. Brock Purdy magic. But no, it's just their defense is why they're going to beat the Eagles. That's why they're going to win that game. The Eagles, when they cannot beat you with the rush, they don't win. If they have to rely on Jalen Hurts to beat the 49ers defense, they will not win. And that's just like as plain as I see it. They can't run Jalen Hurts like they do. I'm sure Fred Warner's going to be a spy all day. Fred Warner's almost as fast as Jalen, if not faster than Jalen in actual speed.
Fred'll be a spy for sure.
Like, that defense is good. They're going to come out. They're going to go out smart. I just have McCaffrey's about to go off. He got held up one game against the Cowboys. Now he's mad. Debo's mad. They're going to be playing mad, running mad.
So you got 49ers big then?
Huh?
Or do you got a close game or you got a
close game?
Big
I
game?
think it's a low scoring game. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I can see
Okay.
I'll say I'm going to go with
I'd go high scoring, in my opinion. I'd go a little bit high scoring. I'd go.
He
I'd
scored
go.
for that game.
I'd go 34 Eagle. No, that's a little bit too high for the defense. I think you're right. I'm going to go 27 Eagles, 18 49.
I'm going like this. I'm gonna sound freaking crazy right now.
You going to say like 6-9 or something?
Huh?
Are you going to say like 6-9, no touchdowns?
No, I'm thinking like 17-14 49ers type of thing.
Oh, so it's a knockdown drag out.
Yeah, like two
Okay.
touchdowns a team, 49ers, Robbie Gold, been in the league forever, kicks that game winner.
Okay. That's a heck of a prediction.
Game
So
winner,
then,
he's got a field goal in there somewhere.
oh yeah, absolutely. So your prediction then for the Super Bowl is the 49ers and the Bengals.
49ers and Bengals.
Who do you have winning that game?
I'd like to wait for my prediction until after the conference finals rounds. You never know who's going to get injured or anything.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I'd like
I guess you're right.
prediction.
I think Bengals this year. That's my pick. I think they beat the Eagles. And you're right. You know, you can change your prediction.
I got Bengals
That's
all
all
day.
good.
If the Eagles make it, I got Bengals all day.
So you're high on the. You're really high on.
The 49ers are good, dude. Their defense is insane.
Their defense is like.
I just don't know if the Bengals have faced a defense like that. The defenses are in the NFC.
That's true.
I mean, I told they ran all over and they threw all over the Bills, but so did the Dolphins' third string quarterback. So, like,
The Eagles got a solid defense too.
What defense do they face? They do have a solid defense. Yeah, Eagles, yeah, for sure. 49ers, Cowboys, and Eagles are like all the top 5 defenses. They do. I think the Eagles are too one-dimensional. I don't believe that Jalen Hurts can beat you passing. Like, I fully don't believe that. I believe they have to get him running if he's going to win, and they need those backs running. If no one's worried about your read option because they have that contained and Jalen Hurts has to beat you with his arm, I don't think he can.
We'll see. He's going to have to lean heavily.
Tua in the national championship, and Tua has to pass to make it Alabama victory.
Bring it all the way back to college. That man, I think he's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. I wish he wasn't, but he's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. I think the Eagles got a really good defense too. I think the Eagles have one of the best defenses in football, literally right behind probably the 49ers, if not the best, actually. That's better than 49ers.
That's pass defense. I'll give them that all day.
The rush defense, yeah.
I mean, Darius Slay is a great corner. I wish he never went there. I loved him when he was on the Lions. I wish he never went there. Bradbury has stepped his game up tremendously since going there. But I'm not worried about their secondary and their passing because that's not how the 49ers are going to beat them.
Yeah, for sure. But also their line now. Philly's line has like the most. I think they have 4 guys that have over 10 sacks.
Yeah, sacks don't matter in the run game.
I mean, I guess not in the run game, but if you can't get past the line of scrimmage,
a great sacker, you run right at him.
That's true.
You run right at him. It's the same thing. Hassan Reddick, great in the passing game, incredible pass rusher. Can he hold up in the run?
I guess we'll see.
You're talking Debo. This is not like your traditional. We're going to run between the guards and.
Yeah, you got packages.
They're going to trick it up. They're going to send him in different ways. There's not a linebacker on that or a safety on that team that can cover McCaffrey or Debo one-on-one out of the backfield. There's not. There's probably not one in the league.
No, that's tough in the league. Yeah, I don't know if you have one because you have to go speed.
Mike Shanahan is the king of positionless football. That's what he has always been about. Back when he was the 49ers, he had Tevin Coleman and is it Freeman?
Oh.
Was it Freeman when that year they went to?
I don't know if it was Freeman.
I believe it was Devonta Freeman was his name.
On the Niners? No, he played for the Falcons, right?
Not about the Niners. Talked about the Falcons. Mike Shanahan.
Okay, then yeah.
Mike Shanahan was on the offensive coordinator for that team.
Oh, at that time. Really?
Yeah, that's why they did all the split back. That's Shanahan, man. He's positionless football. He's split back. He's got his Debo. He's got his McCaffrey. He's got his Mitchell. Guy's got options all over. He's going to spread it out in ways that people don't realize.
Yeah,
Football theorist, if you will.
put it on your resume. Well, that was a good playoff preview, Brett. I guess we'll see, who wins next week. We will talk about, the games that happened this week, and then Brad and I will actually dive into our first two prospects of the new season with the quarterback from Alabama, Bryce Young, and the quarterback from Ohio State, CJ Stroud. And Brad
Levison, I'm wearing the UK rain jacket here. I might have to Will Levis in my little chat next week.
We'll get to the University of Kentucky's quarterback. Well, thanks everyone for listening. This season we're going to be doing pretty much the exact same we did last season, talking about these NFL prospects, except we're going to have video this time where we're actually breaking them down and showing you our explanations in real time. And then we're going to have a lot more guests on the pod too, so we'll open it up to some different sports. But appreciate everybody for watching. Brad, let's do it again next week.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.